This is a game I actually had no intention on buying. I've said a few times that I don't generally get hyped up by video games. I kinda let them fall upon me, and if I like them, I play them, no matter how many years down the road it took me to get it. But this one came a little unexpectedly. I'd like to thank Rags for gifting me the game. He received some review copies and gave one to me. Thanks for thinking of me. So here we are, Titanfall 2. Now, I haven't played the first Titanfall. I'm not really into multiplayer-only games, especially when they cost AAA prices. I'm really more of a campaign guy, so it's a good thing Respawn Entertainment decided to implement one. Before we get into the game, though, let's take a look at the settings menu. Controls are the first category, and I do have to say that the menus in this game are very clean, and I appreciate that a lot. Anyway, in the controls, you have Sprint, where you can actually choose Auto Sprint, Manual Sprint, and even Auto Sprint for the Titan or Pilot, which is really cool. Not really an option I feel is necessary as I've been playing the game, but as I always say, the more options the better, so I'll take it. Next, you have your key bindings, which, it seems like everything's in here. Nothing really to say about that. You got your mouse sensitivity options, mouse acceleration, which is automatically off, thank God, invert mouse, then you have your button/stick layout, which essentially just tells you what the controller mappings are. You have a few settings above to change the layout, but really, I don't see myself using a controller on any first-person shooter. Maybe you do, and if so, this is for you. After that, you have your controller sensitivity options. The response curve, dead zone, you can invert look, vibration, you have advanced controller controls, and then of course you can restore defaults. Now I gotta say, a lot of these are again pointless for me, but the fact that they spent this much time making sure that you can play the game any and every way you please is a really good sign that they know what they're doing, and I have to give a huge applause for this. Next, we have our audio settings. Master volume, sound effects, dialogue, music, lobby music, voice chat, and then you have subtitles, sound occlusion, and sound in the background. You can also pick your speakers. Nothing seems to be missing here, and as you scroll over each setting, it tells you exactly what these things do. And I really appreciate that because sometimes developers rename things to try to simplify them, and you never know what the setting does. So I'm always happy when I see settings have explanations. Lastly, we have our video settings, which of course is our favorite part of the settings menu. So what are they giving us here? Well, we have a full section dedicated just to the HUD. It pretty much looks like you can adjust anything you'd like in regards to that. Up next, you have your display mode. You have windowed and full screen, no borderless, which is kind of sad, but not a huge worry there. Of course, the aspect ratio. Now, resolution seems to have a problem, and actually, if I'm honest here, I think all of my settings change up on me. Call me paranoid, but I have changed my resolution from 4K to 1440p about 4 times now, and it keeps reverting back. Same with some of the graphics settings below, and if I can theorize, this game may be able to adjust settings as the game plays. I have seen other games do this where you play the game and it turns settings up or down while maintaining the frame rate you desire, and I think this may be the case because there is a setting for target frame rate. Either that, or the game just doesn't know how to remember what settings I want and just reverts to default automatically after a certain amount of time. Back to the review though, you have your brightness and then your field of view, which, thank God, it goes up to 110, which I think is a very nice FOV slider. Makes the game playable for me. Colorblind options are available as well. Good to see that in there. And then you have smooth sprint view. Now this section is dedicated to people like me who have motion sickness, and I love them for doing this. I know it seems like a small thing, but these settings can decide for me whether or not I play a game. Lastly, we have our advanced graphics, which are the normal graphics settings. VSync, which I'm gonna sound like I'm repeating myself, there are a lot of options for. You can have triple buffering, adaptive half refresh, and disabled. Seriously, the options! Moving on, you have your frame rate target, which looks like the game is capped at 60. Texture quality, texture filtering, ambient occlusion, sun shadow detail, spot shadow detail, dynamic spot shadows, model detail, effects detail, impact marks, and ragdolls. Now I know I said it before, but what a settings menu. You gave me every option I could ever want and more. I don't think there's anything missing. There might even be too much. I mean, for every one setting, there are 3 options on how to use it. The best part, though, is that none of these settings in this game will make you restart the game if you change them, and that just shows me that they cared. This is a true PC settings menu right here. Seriously, Respawn Entertainment? Thank you. So it's time to jump in and talk about the game. Firstly, this game has some great loading times. I'm playing this game from my hard drive and it takes no time at all for the game to load into a level. After dying, you kinda just wake back up instead of hanging around a loading screen forever. Now of course, if you have a slow hard drive, then obviously you're gonna have loading time issues no matter what. But for those out there with a standard 7200 RPM drive, you should be more than okay. So how does the game play? Well, recently I've been playing Crysis. I beat Crysis 1 in Warhead, and this game feels a lot like the first Crysis games, which I really approve. There are quite a few weapons you find around the map. The enemies react similarly to how the ones in Crysis do. The only thing is, mechanic-wise, this is not a stealth game, and it makes me very sad that there isn't stealth elements in here. I'm big into stealth games, and games that let me decide how I want to take out the enemies is a huge reason I like Crysis so much. This game is also very linear. You have this feeling of a huge open world, but really you're pretty limited on where you can go. Of course, I am talking about the campaign here, as I actually like campaigns, making me feel that that $60 price tag was worth it, and it's really good. So what's really good? Well, first of all, the gunplay feels really good and satisfying. The guns are futuristic and a lot of them have no recoil on them, so you just point and shoot, but there's something about firing the weapons in this game that just makes them feel unique and fun. I've played a lot of shooters and the majority of them all feel the same, so it's nice to have it switched up. Okay, so how does the game run? Well, when you think of an EA game, you kind of already know the answer. I know I may seem like I'm kissing the game's butt, but this game runs beautifully. Their engines are wonderful, and it's nice to see graphics like this running so well. Alright, I've been nice. Now it's time to talk about some issues. If you are in this game for story, you're not going to be that delighted. The game is mostly, we have a problem, let's use guns to fix the problem. Now you could say, so what? Every game's like that these days, and that's true. I think that might be the problem. In this game, you have this mech suit companion that you're supposed to grow attached to, but to me, he just feels like another weapon. I'd like to connect myself with him, get another extra dynamic that I just feel is missing in a lot of games lately, and the story is driven by the main character in the mech as you play the game. The most obvious thing that shows me they really didn't care much about the story is the voice acting. The voice acting is awful. It's off point, it's poorly voice acted, the jokes they tell are just unfitting. You generally get two decisions on what the main character can say to his mech friend, and one is normally serious and played off like the main character thinks he's an all that crazy serial killer, and the other is normally a joke, which never feels natural and just doesn't fit the situation. It really pulls you out of it, and if that's not bad enough, none of it matters. It's not an RPG element that changes the game. You could ignore all of them and just let it pass by, and the whole game would just be the same. It's just bad. Again, if you want this game for its story and the campaign, you need to know that this game is not going to feel satisfying in the story department, and I actually recommend playing this game through, ignoring as many of the vocal points as possible. Otherwise, you can listen to them and have a good laugh, I guess. The next thing I don't like is actually not the game's fault so much as Origin. If you're trying to record this game and can't figure out how, Origin overlays actually hinder some recording software. If you want to record games, you gotta go into Origin and turn that overlay off. Now, I didn't know that, and I was trying to figure out how in the hell I was going to review this game without any footage of it. But other than that, I really like this game. So let's get into the multiplayer. Games like this generally focus on that, so how is the multiplayer? Well, you have quite a few game modes to choose from here, and as of right now I have tried them all, and they're pretty solid. You have Angel City 24/7, which is exactly what it sounds like. You just play in Angel City and kill whatever there. Attrition, which is pretty much AI. AI soldiers flood the map, 3 teams, 2 players, 1 AI. Mixtape, which is a combination of almost all the game modes depending on the player counts, and including a variety of maps like Bounty Hunt, Last Titan Standing, Pilot vs. Pilot, Attrition, and Amped Hardpoint. Capture the Flag is also exactly what it sounds like. Steal the enemy flag and return it to your base and stop them from doing the same. Amped Hardpoint is essentially old Battlefield in Star Wars Battlefront. Capture and hold a hardpoint to earn points, amped hardpoints give you double points. Bounty Hunt is kind of like Deathmatch, but with a different point system. You kill enemies to earn points, you earn more points by banking bonus points off designated areas. Last Titan Standing is a lot of fun and actually is exactly what it sounds like. Everyone gets a Titan and the last one in the battle is the winner. Pilot vs. Pilot, again straightforward, kill enemy pilots, Titanfall is not permitted. Coliseum is different and requires entry tickets, which you get by leveling up and killing enemies in other modes. It's a 1v1 pilot versus pilot match, and it's actually really cool. 8v8 Mixtape is the same as Mixtape, but 8v8. Free-for-all is free-for-all. If I have to explain that, I'd be sad. And then Private Match, if you want to play with friends only. So far, I don't have much trouble with latency. I can generally get into a server pretty quickly, but sometimes it does take a while, and the problem is that there are no dedicated server lists, so you never really know when you're going to join a server, and I kinda hate this whole console style setup, but so long as it works, I'm okay. Really, there isn't a ton to go into here. As different as Titanfall is to other games, it's also very straightforward and gives you a lot of options, not just in the settings, but the way you can play the game, and I'll always respect that. Though not all of the online modes are that great, there is something here for everyone, and I think anyone who buys this game for multiplayer alone will definitely be able to find at least one game mode that they enjoy. In all, I really like the game. I definitely see myself playing the campaign all the way through. Definitely not for the story, but for the gameplay alone. It really does feel that good. The multiplayer is something I feel I would want to play with friends more than just jump into servers, but that's generally how all multiplayer games go for me. I'm not really a jump in and play with strangers type unless I have a few friends in the game too. Not the game's fault, that's definitely a me thing, but I'd say this game is good. The developers really took a lot of time on it and it shows. I really doubt it'll suffer the same fate as the first game. Hopefully. Also, the free DLC? Nice touch. This was Titanfall 2. You can pick up the standard edition for $59.99 US on Origin, or the deluxe edition for $79.99 US or your regional equivalent, also found on Origin. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.